say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming. Later on his red flame once bursting in, he proved through the night that a flag was still there. Oh, sailors, the stars spangled banner, o'er the land of the free, and the home of the brave.
Order, off. Right, straight. Right, straight.
Today, 11/11/11, we honor our veterans, those brave men and women who answered their nation's call to service, and many of whom made the ultimate sacrifice in defense of our country. We recognize them for the many hardships they endured and their unselfish service to protect and preserve our freedoms. We at St. Norbert College are particularly proud of the fact that we have sent hundreds of our graduates over the years into the General Officer Corps, a tradition that continues to this very day through our outstanding ROTC program. The contributions and sacrifices these special people have made on our behalf deserves our thanks, and I'm pleased that so many of you have joined us today for this ceremony of remembrance and appreciation. On behalf of all those present and those who are with us in spirit, we say thanks and God bless. Our first speaker this morning is Father Michael Weber. Father Weber is a Norbertine priest who served 24 years in multiple capacities as a chaplain, supervisor, and member of the command chaplain staff. He served along the Pacific Rim and was deployed into the heart of the Middle East, experiencing firsthand the frontline attack in Bagram, Afghanistan in May 2010. Please welcome Father Michael Weber.
First, I want to say I'm not really comfortable talking about some experiences, and I think there are a lot of vets that understand that. On December 20th, 1989, 3 years after I was commissioned as a captain in the U.S. Air Force, the first declared military incursion into the country of Panama, I was soon sent into the country to help support the efforts of the Army, Navy, Marines, and Air Force working at both Albrook and Howard Air Force Base. The operation was called Just Cause, or as some Panamanians sarcastically dubbed it, Just Because. On one day in March, I was traveling with chaplaincy personnel over the Bridge of the Americas, an important part of the Pan American Highway, which spanned the canal itself, to work with troops on the other side. As we crossed the bridge from the Howard side, we found ourselves in a traffic jam, and then shot at by a solitary and thankfully not so sharp shooter. Standing outside my vehicle, waiting for the road to clear, and upon hearing the shots, I jumped into the pavement, almost head first, face first. It wasn't a very enjoyable moment, by the way. I remember saying to myself, my God, I guess I didn't join the Scouts after all.
And what in the hell was I thinking? I was a clergyman. That was the beginning of a number of deployment experiences I had with so many other military personnel. Exquisitely surreal events happening so close and yet strangely at times seemingly disconnected and so far from reality. Some experiences, some examples. Walking on sidewalks where only a few feet away lay live landmines. Work quarters still marked with bullet, shrapnel, and artillery holes. Sleeping rooms still evidenced human blood splattered on the walls from young Kuwaiti soldiers massacred by Saddam Hussein's forces. Then concussive effects of various explosions near me, and many dead and maimed Americans in hospital rooms that I was called to minister to as a priest and a counselor. All these sights, smells, sounds are what punctuates the memories of so many of us from war years. Today we mark 11/11/11, World War I armistice, and also by remembering active and retired veterans and their families. As a chaplain who served actively for over 23 years and now a retired veteran, I see in retrospect, as one military pundit had put it, ordinary people accomplishing extraordinary things. That's who veterans are. So today, we honor our veterans. We remember those images we hold in our hearts and minds as we walk with genuine American heroes. God bless our veterans. God bless America. And thank you for being here. Thanks, Father Mike. Could I ask the gentleman on top of the thank you very much. It's now my pleasure to introduce Colonel Brian Kundan. Colonel Kundan graduated from St. Norbert College in 1961 and was commissioned through the ROTC program as a distinguished military graduate. Over his 30-year career in the military, Colonel Kundan served as a rifle platoon leader and company commander, staff officer, executive officer, battalion commander, and advisor to the 5th Vietnamese Airborne Battalion. His career took him to Germany, Vietnam, Alaska, Fort Dix, New Jersey, and Fort Campbell, Kentucky. He also served as an assistant professor of military science at Gordon Military College in Atlanta, and his last assignment before retiring in 1991 was Deputy Chief of Staff for Operations for the 4th U.S. Army at Fort Sheridan in Illinois. His many awards include the Distinguished Service Cross, the Legion of Merit, Bronze Star with Oak Leaf Cluster, Purple Heart, and the Vietnam Cross of Gallantry. Please welcome Colonel Brian Kundan. Colonel?
Honored guests today, President Kunkel, veterans, a few I know sitting in the crowd, a few that I went to school with here, Grand Junio to my front, right behind him is Joe, and it's always good to come back to the college. Let me take you back to July of this year. I had to go over to Wausau, Wisconsin. I can't tell you what for because I got a short memory. But anyhow, as I was going out of town on Highway 29, at the intersection of Packerland Drive and 29, there's a traffic light. And I stopped, but before I stopped, there was a truck that come up alongside me. He was going to take a left turn. And on the rear window of his pickup truck, he had listed his two sons. One had served in Iraq, and one had served in Afghanistan. And the one in Iraq had passed away, was killed in action, KIA. And he must have seen my sticker on my truck as he pulled up alongside me that I was Army retired. I didn't know what to say. And I looked at him through the window, and him and me, and we saluted each other. The light turned green. I went west, and he went south. Sometimes on Veterans Day, we forget about those families who have sent their sons and daughters in harm's way. Of 22 million veterans in the United States today, you could just imagine how many sons and daughters have gone to conflicts or combat while their parents stayed at home with the other children. Sometimes we forget about that we need to honor them today. And those of you that are here that have had sons and daughters that have walked that mile in harm's way, my recognition to you and to everybody else. So, where do we go from here? Duty, honor, country. I was a young boy out of northern Wisconsin up in the woods. Never seen a 4-story building till I come to St. Norbert College. And thank God I got down here and was going to school, graduated, was commissioned. But the school taught me compassion. The school taught me behavior. The school taught me responsibility. And as a young man, I finally understood that. They taught me leadership, which carried me wherever I went. And one morning on April 1, April Fool's Day, 1967, I was a rifle company commander in the Big Red 1, 1st and 26th Infantry. I commanded Charlie Company, and we just about got overrun. And all that went through my mind, I had 90 men underneath me at that time. I was a little short, but that's all I could muster up. And what went through my mind was the thought that if it happens here, so be it. So be it. But I will not give ground, and I know the people back home still think of me as a great soldier. And all the other men with me too were great soldiers. So on this day, let's honor them. And when you go out to the cemetery today and see the loved ones, pat yourself on the back, because you're Americans, and over the last 60 or 70 years, you have seen much conflict and much war. But we stand here together as one. And that's a great accomplishment for this nation. Now, you got to keep your humor in uniform. And some of the guys have heard this before. But in Vietnam, I had a first sergeant named Alan Cooper from Powhatan, Virginia. He's 84 years old today. And we would come off mission, and my company was on a long ridge, and there was a river, and up a bank, and there was a little village. Well, in that village was a pagoda. A pagoda is a church with a steeple in it. And on that ridge, we would take showers in the afternoon looking over at the pagoda. We had 55-gallon drums, water in it. The water was warmed up that day. There may be a few snakes in it. You kick those out in the evening. But some of the soldiers come to me and said, there's a sniper up there in that pagoda, that bell tower. And surely enough, you would be down showering and you'd hear this pop snap, pop snap. And I was getting concerned about it. So that evening I talked to the first sergeant, Al Cooper. I said, Al, we got to send a platoon down there, a squad. We got to capture him and get him out of that pagoda. He's going to hurt somebody. Well, it got real quiet. And when Al didn't say much, I knew he was really thinking. And there I stood, I was a young captain. I said, well, what do you say? He said, Captain, we go down there, we capture him or kill him, they're going to put somebody up there that can shoot. And then we got us a problem. And I looked at him and I said, all right, Al, we'll just let it go like that. And I had to tell the troops that, but they understood it too. So that's a little humor in uniform. Thank you, Mr. President, for having me here today, and thank all of you for coming.
Thanks, Colonel. Now it's my pleasure to introduce a colleague, Dr. Kevin Miller. Kevin is a clinical psychologist who served as a captain in the U.S. Air Force from 1993 to 2000. During that time, he was awarded 2 Air Force Achievement Medals, 2 Air Force Commendation Medals, and the Meritorious Service Medal. He was named by the Secretary of the Air Force to serve as the human factors expert in several investigations of fatal and non-fatal aircraft disasters. He was chosen to train the entire staff of Inspectors General on mental health issues affecting military members. And he was asked by the Air Force Surgeon General to review psychological testing used to identify post-traumatic stress disorder among Air Force veterans. He was promoted to major in 2000 and was given the option of continuing a military career or continuing his career as a husband and father by the Commander-in-Chief of the Miller household. We are pleased that he chose the latter and is part of the St. Norbert College community. Please welcome Dr. Kevin Miller. Kevin.
Yes, I'm wearing a Steelers jacket. So much for all being on the same team. The reason I'm wearing the Steelers jacket is that my personal hero is my dad, and we'll get to my prepared remarks in a second. But when I called my dad after I'd been asked to present here, I thought, I'm not really worthy to stand up here, especially we got Marines in the house. My dad's retired Army. Grandfather was a CB in World War II, for those of you that know what that is. And a great uncle was a flying tiger over China. So he said, well, you can do one thing for me when you get up there. That's the bravest I'm going to be. President Kunkel, fellow veterans, and everyone in attendance today, especially students who are taking time out when you don't really need to. Us old people feel obligated, but I'm glad to see a number of students in the audience. Thank you for taking the time out to show your gratitude for the blood, sweat, and tears shared by my fellow veterans. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm not normally at a loss for words. Tom says right. However, when asked to be one of the speakers on stage today, I had no idea what to say. You see, this is personal for me. As I mentioned, my dad was a combat veteran. My grandfather was a combat veteran. My great-grandfather, his great-grandfather, and his great-grandfather were all combat veterans going back to the Revolutionary War. My great-uncle, as I mentioned, was a flying tiger before World War II started. 4 of my uncles, 6 of my cousins, and even one of my aunts was a veteran when women didn't do such things. It's called the WACS back then, the Women's Army Corps. My wife worked as a nurse at a VA hospital. My aunt volunteered at a VA hospital. My mom currently volunteers at a VA hospital. After numerous attempts at writing something about my family and my own experiences, I realized it was too hard. It was too personal, and I wasn't going to make it today. So I decided to share a story of someone I had heard about years ago when I worked at a VA hospital. His name is Clarence Sasser. He worked for the VA and had previously been in the military. Please take a moment and think about Mr. Sasser. He was 20 years old when he gave up his college deferment in the Vietnam era and enlisted in the Army. He received the Congressional Medal of Honor for the following events that occurred when he was just 21 years old. Official citation: for conspicuous gallantry in action at the risk of his life above and beyond the call of duty, Specialist 5th Class Sasser distinguished himself while assigned to Headquarters Company 3rd Battalion. He was serving as a medical aide with Company A, 3rd Battalion on a reconnaissance and force operation. His company was making an air assault when suddenly it was taken under heavy small arms fire, recoilless rifle, machine gun, and rocket fire from well-fortified enemy positions on 3 sides of the landing zone. During the first few minutes, over 30 casualties were sustained. Without hesitation, Specialist 5th Class Sasser ran across an open rice paddy through a hail of fire to assist the wounded. After helping one man to safety, he was painfully wounded in the left shoulder by fragments of an exploding rocket. Refusing medical attention, he ran through a barrage of rocket and automatic weapons fire to aid casualties of the initial attack, and after giving them urgently needed medical attention, he continued to search for other wounded. Despite 2 additional wounds immobilizing his legs, He dragged himself through the mud toward another soldier 100 meters away. Although in agonizing pain and faint from loss of blood, Specialist 5th Class Sasser reached the man, treated him, and proceeded on to encourage another group of soldiers to crawl 200 meters to relative safety. There he attended their wounds for 5 hours until they were evacuated. Specialist 5th Class Sasser's extraordinary heroism is in keeping with the highest traditions of military service and reflects great credit upon himself, his unit, and the U.S. Army. You don't need to enlist in the military to be a hero. When you have the choice to either look away quietly in fear or stand up for the right thing, pick the one Specialist Sasser would have picked. If you see corruption in your organization, stand up and make it right. If you see someone being mistreated because of their race, their religion, their gender, their appearance, their disability, or their football team, do something, do anything to stand up for the rights of the oppressed. If you have the choice between volunteering to help someone in need or spending a few hours in bed recovering from a party, volunteer. To our students, faculty, and staff, make this community a community where we never take for granted the liberties people like Specialist Sasser helped ensure for us. Finally, thank you again to all the veterans who were in combat, who took care of those who were wounded physically or mentally, and even those who sharpened pencils for a living while in the military. If it wasn't for your service, no matter how big or small, the liberties we take for granted on a daily basis would have been taken away years ago by enemies of the Constitution, whether they are foreign or domestic. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. It's now my pleasure to introduce James Warner. James served 7 years in the United States Navy as a Spanish linguist, specializing in counter-narcotics, alien smuggling, and human trafficking cases. He hails from Omaha, Nebraska, and is completing his junior year at St. Norbert College, where he majors in international studies with an emphasis on Latin America and political science. Please welcome James Warner. James?
Well, I gotta admit that it's kind of hard to follow up after these guys, just a little bit. Too much credit was given. I was pretty much one of those pencil sharpeners that was in the military.
Thank you.
To paraphrase Thomas Paine, those who expect to reap the blessings of freedom must undergo the fatigue of supporting it. Many of you are here today have borne that burden and expressed the fatigue of waging war in order to bring peace. To you, I say thank you. Thank you for setting the example that inspired me and my peers to raise our hands in voluntary service to this great nation. That shared service joins us together like no other bond. The camaraderie and fellowship we share in military service helps define us and often profoundly changes our character and redirects our paths in our life. I can honestly say that the time I've spent as a member of the United States Navy is the best of my life, and that service, even after I left the Navy, will stay with me and define me until the day I die. As a nation, we have prospered because we always had citizens willing to stand up and answer the call to serve in hours of our need. Our national resolve has been expressed by the millions who have worn the military uniform. In the words of Edmund Burke, the only thing necessary for the triumph of evil is for good men to do nothing. Today, we honor our veterans, male and female, past and present, for their unyielding sacrifice and dedication to our great nation. And what is a list of accomplishments that they can attest to? For some, it meant worldwide conflict in World War II, or a lifetime of peacekeeping missions, or the tense standoff of the Cold War, or found themselves in the jungles of Vietnam or in Korea, Panama, and other conflicts in which we have asked our military to serve over the years. Some have endured great hardships, separation from family, and drastically altered lifestyles. Some have experienced the horrors of war. All sacrificed something so that we could enjoy the freedoms that we have today. Fewer than 10% of Americans can claim the title of military veteran. I am reminded of the words of Winston Churchill: "Never in the field of human conflict was so much owed by so many to so few." So today, to honor that debt, I would ask you to take some time to honor service members, past and present. First, volunteer to help a veteran or service member. regardless of whether you are a veteran or not. Since 10 years ago, on September 11, 2001, there have been over 860,000 wounded veterans, as well as 4,483 American heroes that have paid the ultimate sacrifice and left loved ones behind defending their country. And finally, if you are a vet, please share your story with others. Let everyone know that you have done so that they can see the many faces of the military service and appreciate the personal service of their neighbors. If you are not a vet, find someone in your life that is a vet, ask them about their service, or simply say thank you. For all those veterans here today, thank you for your service and your sacrifice. For all those not in the military, thank you for choosing to share this special day with us and show your support with our heroes, past and present. Thank you.
Thank you, James. And it's a pleasure to introduce our final speaker, who's another St. Norbert student. Scott Delsar is a junior at SNC and is a cadet in the Army Reserve Officer Training Corps. He is a remarkable young man who actually got his pilot's license before he got his driver's license. He serves on the board of directors for Old Glory Honor Flight, the Northeast Wisconsin Honor Flight hub. On average, about 900 World War II veterans die each day nationwide. The sole purpose of the Honor Flight program is to provide these ailing veterans a memorable, safe, and rewarding tour of their memorials in Washington, D.C. Since October of 2009, nearly 1,000 Northeast Wisconsin veterans have been escorted to our nation's capital. Scott has been instrumental in this effort and has also helped publish a book called Operation Legacy, which compiles various wartime stories from many veterans from our area. A video featuring Scott and his work with the Honor Flight program is being shown today on all campus televisions. Scott, come on up. Scott Delsar.
Well, thank you, President Kunkel. Good morning, members of the audience, most importantly, veterans in the audience. I would like to start today by addressing my time serving as a member on the board of directors for Old Glory Honor Flight. In just the short time our organization has existed, I've come to believe that in taking these veterans to their memorials in Washington, D.C., I truly have the best paying job in the world, yet we volunteers do not get paid a penny for it. In saying that, I mean the reward I receive by seeing these humble heroes finally receiving the recognition they deserve at the memorials built in their honor far surpasses the work we put into making it happen. When I see a young child at the World War II Memorial walk up to a veteran, a complete stranger, hug them, and then say, "Thank you for protecting our country. I know we have done our job." When two Marines who have served bravely together in the jungles of Guadalcanal and on the volcanic ash of Iwo Jima are once again reunited at their memorial that sits adjacent to Arlington, I know we have done our job. When a 91-year-old veteran who has experienced nearly a century of life tells me with tear-filled eyes that going on the honor flight was the best day of his life, next to his wedding day, of course, I know not only we have done our job, but America has done its job in thanking these veterans. Peacetime veterans and veterans of all conflicts have always been there to answer the call and have served in a manner that deserves our utmost respect. As an Army ROTC cadet here at St. Norbert College, I think I speak for all my peers in the audience today that as we seek to become future Army officers, if we do even half as good a job as those who have served before us have, we will remain the land of the free. Since 1936, the ROTC program here has had such a rich tradition. Our graduates continue to set the curve for commissioning second lieutenants. Green Knight Company has recently won first place at the annual Ranger Challenge competition and has produced 12 general officers throughout its history. Again, we cadets have some pretty large shoes to fill, I would say, and the burden is upon us to serve in the selfless manner that those before us have. Many of those are in the audience today. Now with that, I know I'm an Army guy, but as I conclude, I'd like to do something that I was inspired by a Navy Admiral to do. I've met so many veterans throughout the past few years. I've had the privilege of shaking thousands of veterans' hands. And just about every single one, and most of you can attest to this, whenever you thank them for their service, they modestly say, I was just doing my duty, or I was just doing what I had to do. I don't deserve credit for what I did. I was just doing it because I had to do it. They don't realize that without their efforts, this world would be a much more evil place. I've come to find that veterans are some of the most humble and modest people on the planet. So with that, I would like you veterans, as us thankful Americans, give you a standing applause to remain seated, pat yourself on the back, and for at least just this one time, tell yourself, you know what, I did it. I did my job well done, and I've done what so many Americans have not had the privilege of doing, which is serve. So thank you.